Latest breaking news today. Taiwan sharply criticized China on Saturday after Beijing marked the founding of the People's Republic of China with the largest ever incursion by the Chinese Air Force into the island's air defense zone. Chinese claim Taiwan has complained for a year or more of repeated missions by China's Air Force near the democratically governed island, often in the southwestern part of its air defense zone close to the Taiwan-controlled Plaza Islands. Taiwanese fighters scrambled against 38 Chinese aircraft in 2 waves on Friday, the Taiwan Defense Ministry said. It said Taiwan sent combat aircraft to warn away the Chinese aircraft, while missile systems were deployed to monitor them. The first wave of incursions comprised 18 J-16 and 4 Su-30 fighter jets plus 2 nuclear-capable H-6 bombers and an anti-submarine aircraft, while the second had 10 J-16s, 2 H-6s and an early warning aircraft, the ministry said. The first batch of Chinese aircraft all flew in an area close to the Plaza Islands, with the 2 bombers flying closest to the atoll, according to a map issued by the ministry. The second group flew down into the Bashi Channel that separates Taiwan from the Philippines, a key waterway that links the Pacific with the disputed South China Sea. China has yet to comment. It has previously said such flights were to protect the country's sovereignty and aimed at collusion between Taiwan and the United States, the island's most important international backer. The previous largest incursion happened in June, involving 28 Chinese Air Force aircraft. China's latest mission came less than a day after its government launched an attack on Taiwan's foreign minister, evoking the words of revolutionary leader Mao Zedong to denounce him as a shrilling fly for his efforts to promote Taiwan internationally. China has stepped up military and political pressure to try and force Taiwan to accept Chinese sovereignty. Taiwan says it is an independent country and will defend its freedom and democracy. Worldwide deaths related to COVID-19 surpassed 5 million on Friday, according to a Reuters tally, as the Delta variant causes a surge in fatalities, mainly among the unvaccinated. More than half of the world has yet to receive at least 1 dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, according to our World in Data. It took almost over a year for the COVID-19 death toll to hit 2.5 million, while the next 2.5 million deaths were recorded in 236 days, according to a Reuters analysis. More than half of all global deaths reported on a 7-day average were in the United States, Russia, Brazil, Mexico, and India. Globally, an average of 8,000 deaths were reported daily over the last week, accounting for 5 deaths every minute. An experimental antiviral pill developed by Merck & Co. could have the chances of dying or being hospitalized for those most at risk of contracting severe COVID-19, according to data that experts hailed as a potential breakthrough in how the virus is treated. If it gets authorization, molnupiravir, which is designed to introduce errors into the genetic code of the virus, would be the first oral antiviral medication for COVID-19. Merck and partner Ridgeback Biotherapeutics said they plan to seek United States emergency use authorization for the pill as soon as possible and to make regulatory applications worldwide. Current treatment options include Gilead Sciences' infused antiviral remdesivir and generic steroid dexamethasone, both of which are generally only given once a patient has already been hospitalized. Existing treatments are cumbersome and logistically challenging to administer. A simple oral pill would be the opposite of that, Adelia added. The results from the Phase 3 trial, which sent Merck shares up more than 9%, were so strong that the study is being stopped early at the recommendation of outside monitors. Shares of COVID-19 vaccine makers Moderna were off more than 10%, while Pfizer was down less than 1%. Jefferies analyst Michael Yee said investors believe people will be less afraid of COVID and less inclined to get vaccines if there is a simple pill that can treat COVID. Pfizer and Swiss drug maker Roche Holding AG are also racing to develop an easy-to-administer antiviral pill for COVID-19. For now, only antibody cocktails that have to be given intravenously are approved for non-hospitalized patients. White House COVID-19 response coordinator Jeff Zients said on Friday that molnupiravir is a potential additional tool to protect people from the worst outcomes of COVID, but added that vaccination remains far and away our best tool against COVID-19. A planned interim analysis of 775 patients in Merck's study looked at hospitalizations or deaths among people at risk for severe disease. It found that 7.3% of those given molnupiravir twice a day for 5 days were hospitalized and none had died by 29 days after treatment. That compared with a hospitalization rate of 14.1% for placebo patients. There were also 8 deaths in the placebo group. Scientists welcome the potential new treatment to help prevent serious illness from the virus, which has killed almost 5 million people around the world, 700,000 of them in the United States. The study enrolled patients with laboratory-confirmed mild to moderate COVID-19, who had symptoms for no more than 5 days. All patients had at least one risk factor associated with poor disease outcome, such as obesity or older age. Drugs in the same class as molnupiravir have been linked to birth defects in animal studies. Merck has said similar studies of molnupiravir, for longer and at higher doses than used in humans, indicate that the drug does not affect mammalian DNA. Merck said viral sequencing done so far shows molnupiravir is effective against all variants of the coronavirus, including the highly transmissible Delta, which has driven the recent worldwide surge in hospitalizations and deaths. It said rates of adverse events were similar for both molnupiravir and placebo patients, but did not give details. Merck has said data shows molnupiravir is not capable of inducing genetic changes in human cells, but men enrolled in its trials had to abstain from heterosexual intercourse or agree to use contraception. Women of childbearing age in the study could be pregnant and also had to use birth control. The United States drug maker said it expects to produce 10 million courses of the treatment by the end of 2021. The company has a United States government contract to supply 1.7 million courses of molnupiravir at a price of $700 per course. Davis said Merck has similar agreements with other governments, and is in talks with more. Merck said it plans a tiered pricing approach based on country income criteria. The United States government has the option to purchase up to an additional 3.5 million treatment courses if needed, a United States health official told Reuters. The official asked to remain anonymous because they were not authorized to comment publicly on the contract. Merck has also agreed to license the drug to several India-based generic drug makers, which would be able to supply the treatment to low and middle-income countries. Molnupiravir is also being studied in a Phase 3 trial for preventing infection in people exposed to the coronavirus. Merck officials said it is unclear how long the FDA review will take, although Dean Li, head of Merck's research labs, said, they are going to try to work with alacrity on this. In a rare visit to the United States Capitol, President Joe Biden tried on Friday to end a fight between the moderate and progressive wings of his Democratic Party that threatened to torpedo his domestic agenda. Faced with a moderate faction that wanted an immediate vote on a $1 trillion infrastructure bill and a progressive arm that wanted to wait until with potentially catastrophic economic consequences. Then on December 3, the nation faces the risk of a government shutdown that could be politically damaging for Democrats. By early next year, attention will focus on the midterm elections in November 2022, where history favors Republicans' chances of recapturing a majority in Congress. House Democrats confirmed late Friday there would be no vote on the infrastructure bill that day. The most vocal opponents to the proposed $3.5 trillion size of the social and climate bill are moderate Senate Republicans Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, either of whom has the ability to prevent a bill from passing.